Welcome to the Secrets of College Planning. I'm your host, Anthony Uva, and today we're going to get some insight into golf at the college level. My guest today is Erika DeSanty. She is the women's golf coach at Princeton University, and welcome to the show.
Thank you. I'm really happy to be here.
Yeah, so usually I start my guests where you went to college. So where'd you go to school?
I went to school at a small place in New London, New Hampshire called Colby-Sawyer College. Oddly enough, I'm a first-generation college graduate, and I went to school and didn't play golf in college. I played basketball in college.
Wow!
And but that's where I did my undergraduate degree.
Okay, so let's just go back in time.
Mm-hmm.
So let's go back into high school. When did you start thinking about college? Was it freshman year of high school, senior year of high school? When did it all begin for you?
Again, having been a first-generation college student, I didn't have as much guidance as I had hoped. And looking back, I may have gone through the process a little bit differently. Yeah. But that said, I probably started the process when I was a junior in college and starting to identify some schools that I might be interested in. I felt like I would want to stay close to home. I grew up in the Berkshires of Massachusetts, so I wanted to be in New England, and I knew I wanted to do something in the world of sport. So I really started to narrow college choices by sport management programs and what I might be interested in that way, and put some feelers out to different schools. And then from there, the great news is I started to get some letters from different coaches, and Colby-Sawyer ended up being a match for me. But really, it was when I went to campus, got a feel for the institution, got a feel for the coach and the team that really sold me on that school.
So you played basketball there?
Yeah.
Okay, so you're at the school. How's the atmosphere at the school? What's basketball like there?
Yeah. It was a really small school, so athletics was a big deal, and it made up so much of the population. And for me, playing a team sport, especially basketball, a game that I was really passionate about, obviously, was super exciting. Most of my closest friends were on the team, and it was this journey of building friendships and then coming into your own in college athletics. And from a basketball perspective, it was really exciting because we made great progress, and in our final season we actually won the conference championship.
Oh, wow.
and went to the NCAAs, and it was the first time they had done that in a few years. So it was really fulfilling that way.
So now, how does one go from graduating at Colby-Sawyer to becoming the head women's golf coach at Princeton University? What's the path that you took?
I will tell you, if you had asked me where I would be when I was graduating college, and if you had said you're going to be the women's golf coach at Princeton University, I would have said there's absolutely no way that's going to happen. But I grew up in the Berkshires, and I was down the street from Williams College growing up, and so I had always been a big fan of Williams College athletics. And the athletic director at the time, Harry Sheehy, now the athletic director at Dartmouth College, almost recruited me for the women's golf position at Williams. I had been a Williams basketball assistant for some time, and he knew I was transitioning out of that role, and he said, I know you have golf in your background. I had played golf growing up, and I loved the game, but basketball was my first passion. And he had said, there's an opportunity in women's golf. If this is something you might want to pursue, let's do it. So we did, and then 5 years later, after having some great success at Williams, I got the job at Princeton.
Wow.
Yeah, it's pretty amazing.
So did you do any schooling in between graduating? Did you get any more schooling as well?
Yes, I did. I went to a GA program, graduate assistant program, where they were paying for my education, and I was an assistant basketball coach at Elmira College in New York. And I did that for 2 years, and after that, I returned to Williams.
Great.
So that's kind of my story. But yeah, oddly enough, to end up in the world of golf after this bit of a basketball background. It is, yeah.
That's great.
Yeah.
So now how long have you been at Princeton now?
I've been at Princeton. I'm going to my 6th year.
Wow, fantastic.
Yeah.
So let's get into golf.
Okay.
How does recruiting begin at Princeton University for golf? What's the process that you take for recruiting athletes?
I think there's a combination of things. Of course, I'm working to identify the best student athletes in the country, while also getting correspondence from some student athletes that might be interested. So I think it's a balance of those two worlds, is reaching out to some of the best golfers to see if they academically qualify for the institution, and then also using some of the candidates that have reached out to me kind of proactively and seeing if they are the right fit from a golf perspective. So that process happens, honestly, communication might begin for those students when they're freshmen in high school. But it really amps up sophomore year, and certainly that sophomore summer or the summer after sophomore year, as they're rising juniors, that's where I really start to identify the class and work with those student athletes to figure out who are going to be the best fit for our program.
Okay, so now what qualifications do you need in golf? Other than grades, of course.
Yeah, I think that's first and foremost. To be competitive at an institution like Princeton, I wish I could recruit the #1 player in the world, but if she doesn't have the right academic credentials, I cannot recruit her. So it starts obviously with academics, but beyond that, I'm really looking for golfers that are shooting around par consistently, that have some under par rounds. I think that players with under par rounds, that's a different type of mentality, different type of mental strength that they're showing on the golf course. So I'm looking for that. I'm looking for consistency. I'm looking for strength of schedule, seeing if they're playing in competitive fields and how they're doing against some of the best competitors nationally. And then beyond that, obviously characteristics like, do they want to be part of a team? Are they winners? Are they good, kind people that I'm excited to coach for 4 years? All of those qualities that one would look for.
Now, high school golf compared to outside of high school golf. Some coaches like high school golf, some coaches like the outside golf. What's your take on that?
It's interesting. I just had this conversation with a friend of mine yesterday who's beginning the process, and he asked me the very same question: should I be playing high school golf? And a lot of college coaches are going to say high school golf matters very, very little. To me, it matters, and the reason being is, given my background, right? I obviously played a team sport all of my life. Throughout my life, I played individual sports as well, but I am looking for individuals who are excited about being part of a team. Now, right now at Princeton, most of my student athletes had never played a team sport prior to their Princeton experience. But I am attracted and drawn to student athletes that have some team experience in their background, that thrive in that experience, that are excited about that experience. So I like the balance of high school golf. There's certainly states in the country that high school golf is a big deal and really highly competitive. So that certainly can make a difference to me. But I think it's about the athlete. Is high school golf going to help them in the process? Is it going to take away from their experience? For me, I like somebody who has some team experience in their background.
Yeah. Now, do they have to be ranked of some sort? Do they have to go to a certain amount of tournaments? How does golf work?
Yeah, of course I'm looking for highly ranked student athletes. I mean, some of our top candidates, and for instance, the graduating class of 2020 are in their recruiting class in the top 50. Several of them are in their top 50 of their recruiting class. So yes, I am looking at rankings. I would be lying otherwise. But it's not the only factor I'm looking for. I'm looking for the intangibles. For me, I really like to go and watch the student athletes compete. So as I start to identify our top candidates, I'm almost always on a plane throughout the country trying to see those athletes compete. And in that, I'm not looking for them to have their best competitive round they've ever played, but more than that, just watching them, observing them, how they're reacting to different shots, how they're reacting to mistakes and great shots, and all of those things that I'm looking for.
Now, how does one get ranked?
playing in highly competitive events, and some people are less fortunate, right? And you have to appreciate that as a coach, but certainly AJGA tournaments and going around the country and playing in those events, if they're able to play in those events, that'll help rankings. But it's not just that. There's software and a new site that people are using all the time. It's called Junior Golf Scoreboard, and there are rankings on that are pretty competitive and that are looking at events beyond just an AJGA event. So they're looking at all sorts of events, U.S. amateurs, New Jersey PGA is coming here. So they're going to comprise all of those different events into how they've done competitively against these fields and base it on their scores and strength of schedule.
So now people who have their kids going to these tournaments, right, do they have to go just in the state of New Jersey or New York, or do they have to travel around the country to try to get as many tournaments that are different than just in one location? It's
never going to be a bad thing to travel outside of the country if you have the means to doing that around the country. I mean, that is going to be beneficial to the student athlete. Not every family is fortunate enough to be able to do that. So I think it's important that if they're not able to do that, trying to play in the most competitive fields, and as they're communicating with coaches, explaining what their process is, what they're doing to work on their games, how they're scoring, even if it's local events, coaches might be interested in seeing what they're doing in those local events. That's going to be just as important as some of these nationwide events.
And you go to a good plenty of tournaments all over the country?
Yeah, I really do. I'm traveling all the time, and sometimes it's at the, it's last minute that I'm planning these trips based on where my top candidates are going to be. Gotcha. That's often what I'm doing. I'm not necessarily saying to recruits, I want you to play in these events. These are the events that I'm going to. I really try to go to where those candidates are going to be. Gotcha.
So now I'm a student athlete, want to come to Princeton University. What does what is that athlete going to expect? When do they get to school? What happens every month? Do you play golf from August when you get there to all the way until the following June? How does it all begin at Princeton University?
Well, as a freshman, I will say it's probably their most overwhelming time. They come in and we're immediately beginning. Princeton starts later than some of the other Ivy institutions and some other schools. We actually don't start classes this year. We start, I think, September 14th or September 12th, one or the other. And so our students are coming in and they'll come back to campus on September 7th, and we're hopping on a plane that day to go to our first event.
Wow.
Competitively. So they're hoping to come in ready to go. The freshmen will gear up as soon as they finish their orientation process, and our competitive schedule in the fall goes anywhere from that September 7th date until usually around mid-October. And we'll be competing usually anywhere from 3 to 4 events in the fall.
Wow.
And then there's a bit of a break in their golf experience, if you will. And in Division I athletics, unlike Division III athletics, we have a little bit of time that we can spend with them in that off-season period. We have them for 6 hours during that time, 3 of which go towards strength and conditioning training. So our student athletes are doing strength training, and then we're doing some individual sessions in the time between that October 15th end date and when we begin. In January, at Princeton, they're in a final period. So that's a really demanding time for them academically, but for the most part, we have captain's practices and individually driven sessions during that time. Okay. And then come February 1st, we can gear up again. And then our competition schedule goes anywhere from February 1 until the end date of hopefully after April, but the Ivy Championship is late April, usually around April 22nd. Okay. And that's a 3-day event. So we might be going competitively from February 1st until, hopefully, if we win the Ivy Championship, we're moving on into May.
And now, is there NCAA championships as well after that?
Yeah, so as soon as you finish, if you win the Ivy Championship, our league at this time is usually based on automatic qualification. So you have to win the Ivy Championship to get invited to the NCAA championships. Gotcha. But hopefully, as our conference gets better and better, we'll also have an at-large bid type of situation. But right now, in order to earn that bid, we would have to win the conference championship.
So now, how does golf work at the college level? Is it every weekend you're at a different place? Is it every other weekend? Is it once a month? How does it all work?
So each year we have probably around 8 competitions in total. And so those 8 competitions, as I said, there's many months of our season. So there's 8 competitions are spread out from 4 in the fall to only 4 in the spring over that course of February 1st until late April.
But each tournament is what, 3 days?
Well, usually they're either 3-day events or 2-day events, and oftentimes in those 2-day events, it's 36 holes on one day followed by 18 the second day.
Wow. Okay, so now they get to April, they get to the NCAA tournament. How long can they go there? Another month?
Well, it depends on how we do. The first portion of NCAAs for Division I golf is a regional event. So if we were fortunate enough to make it through regionals, then you go to the championship. There has never been a women's team in the Ivy League that has made it to the national championship as a team. We've had student athletes. Actually, I was fortunate enough in my second year at Princeton to have a freshman qualify for the NCAA championship, and she's determined to get back there now in her senior year. So that is possible, but that has yet to be done in the Ivy League.
Interesting. Now, what's entailed for these students after college? Do some of them try for the actual pro golfing or not?
Yeah, it varies from one student to the next. I have a handful of students on the team right now who are flirting with the idea of trying to make it professionally. We recently had a graduate, actually I never had the good fortune of coaching her, but Kelly Shawn just finished her LPGA Tour run. So here, a Princeton graduate, played professionally, had some great success, especially in her rookie season, and has since retired and is now working in finance. So there's all different paths, and I have students right now that have interest in becoming doctors. I have students that are interested in being doing something in marketing and economics. So all different interests.
Now, do you get a variety of different students? Because some sports you have to be tall, basketball, right?
Yeah.
Some sports you don't.
Yeah.
Right? Like golf. But does golf have ethnicity that comes into play? There's a lot of Asians that are very good at golf, or African Americans, or anything like that. Do you see a variety of different golfers that way as well? My job is to recruit the very, very best student athletes that I can, and whether they're short or tall, or whether they hit the ball super far or not so far, or whether they're Asian American, it really doesn't matter to me. I'm looking for the best people for our institution. We do have a lot of Asian Americans we have a lot of Asian students on our team, but that, and as you know, there's on the PGA Tour, there's a number of Asians represented and some of the best players. But for me, I'm looking for the very best student athletes. And so if they happen to be Asian, terrific. If they're not, that's terrific too. I'm looking for the best fit for our team. So now, how about their games? You have your fairway, you have your putting, you have your short game.
Yeah.
How does it all work at the college level? What part of it is what you're looking for, and what types do they actually have to have?
Yeah, I mean, I think for golf and similar for track and swimming, it's a numbers game. It's a score they post at the end of the round, and I hate to say that, but it's true. You can look at a number of stats and different things, but at the end of the day, it's how they're actually scoring and how consistently they're doing it. Yeah. So really, I'm looking for those players that are consistently around par, have under par rounds, and are playing against strong fields and doing well against those fields. So those are really the things that I'm looking at. What I've noticed in terms of those strengths that they may have, Certainly length is a factor in Division I compared to Division III. Remember, I had coached at Williams, so that's a difference I'm seeing is in length consistently. Division I student athletes are usually a little bit longer, but that's not necessarily true for Division III athletes. And then their short game is incredibly strong. They're able to manage their mistakes in a really great way and manage to get up and down in positions that other athletes may not be able to get up and down. So I think that's the thing that separates one good golfer from a great golfer.
So now, how about videos? What type of videos do you look at? Is it like 2-minute type videos, or they have to film all 18 holes that they're playing, or 9 holes, or whatever?
Swing videos are not all that important to me. It's more stats driven, scoring driven, rankings, things like that I'm really looking at. I often am using Junior Golf Scoreboard to see where they're playing and those kind of things. But never a bad thing to send a swing video. Some coaches really want to see what their technique is, and will themselves, when they're watching them actually compete, will take videos of their swing. For me, it's less important.
Gotcha. So how about monies? I mean, Princeton's not cheap, right? There's a lot of universities that aren't cheap. So what does Princeton offer? I know that a lot of coaches have been on the show in the past, and they all say there are no scholarships at Princeton. But what can Princeton do for monies if parents are looking at financial need of some sort?
Well, as you already said, we don't offer any type of scholarship, so I think that's important to note. But certainly, from a financial aid place, Princeton is going to offer one of the strongest packages in the country, just because of the wealth of the institution. But we are completely hands off in that process. If a family does require financial aid, they will go directly through the financial aid department. I will have no conversations about that. That is completely out of my job description. That is entirely through that process, and we offer obviously a great package where they're gonna fulfill the need of the family based on what they see.
Gotcha. Now, what's the process for the student? Do they just send you a videotape? Do they make a phone call to you? Do they just show up at the school one day? How does it work for a student athlete coming to Princeton?
Well, hopefully they don't just show up to the school one day. That's never easy for me. But I think the process really begins oftentimes via email and sending me resumes and scores, and we start to build communication. And then certainly for me, phone conversations are really important, and that doesn't hold true for all coaches, but specifically for me, I like to get on the phone as much as possible and really get to know the student athletes and begin that formal communication when I am able to. At this time, we are able to start to communicate with rising juniors after they complete their sophomore year, June 15th. Before it was September 1st, so that process just changed, so it's a little bit earlier for us. But I'm going to, as soon as I can, call my top recruits and get them on the phone and start to build those relationships over the phone. And then my next step is oftentimes going to see them compete. Once I see them compete, I will or will not invite them to campus to get to meet the team and sit down and see if Princeton is actually the right fit for them. Yeah.
So now, how do you find these students? I mean, do you just have alumni calling you up and saying, "Hey, Erika, I saw someone that you should look at"? Yeah. Again, I think what we really do, or what I try to do, is connect with some of the best recruits in each of the graduating class. Like I certainly am trying to connect with those student athletes, some of whom are interested in Princeton and the Ivy League, others are not, and others may not qualify. But it's a combination of making those connections and also getting communication throughout the year of people that might be interested in Princeton. That's how I really start to identify and narrow our recruiting class. Great. So we're coming to the end of our show. Great. And usually I ask my guests, what advice do you want to give to the parents and the daughters that are out there that want to play golf at the college level, what advice do you want to give to them?
Well, first of all, I think there is nothing greater than college athletics. I think you should always use this great gift you have, this ability to play any sport, to get the best education you possibly can. I mean, that is a real opportunity, a real gift, and something to seriously consider if you have the ability to do that. Beyond that, I think it's really important that the families and the recruit, the student athlete herself, is being proactive in that process. As much as we as coaches need to recruit, you also need to take time to recruit those institutions that you want to pursue. And it may mean some of those dream schools that feel out of your reach, but trying to pursue those schools and also connecting with some schools that may be more within your reach right away. But being super proactive in the process is really important.
Great. Well, thank you very much for coming on the show.
Thank you. I'm happy to be here.
Great. So you've been watching The Secrets of College Planning. I'm your host, Anthony Uva. Until next time.